We are unfortunately not live namhlanje Mbukeli, but you can still interact with us on our social media network. Ungasithola ku-X, ungasithola ku-Facebook. Alternatively, send us an email to consumer@sabc.co.za. We are talking about a debt review process, Mbukeli, of which is supposed to give over-indebted consumers some sort of relief, but we are finding, as my guests have actually alluded, namhlanje ukuthi no, kahle kunobunye ubukhonyovi obenzakalayo la. My guest today we put Elias Shamatla from Marefi Consulting alongside Miss Annaline van der Poel of at Debt Rescue. So Annaline, I gave you a question, I gave you a little bit of an assignment before we went to break. Maybe just give it to our viewers. How is this process of debt review supposed to be initiated without obviously having had the data stolen from wherever you bought whatever it is that they decided to sell your data?
It's a voluntary process, meaning that it should come from the consumer side. In other words, the consumer should be approaching the debt counsellor and saying, I need help. Obviously, there is a lot of awareness that still needs to be made around debt counselling as a solution, how it works, etc. And obviously, that is part of marketing. But the marketing has to be clear. It has to state what it is that it's marketing, and it must be honest and truthful. In other words, this is the solution. This is how it works. This is what it's called. It's called debt counselling or debt review, same thing. Don't dress it up as something else. And if you are interested, you've approached the debt counsellor and let them then start the assessment process, and then you voluntarily decide if you want to proceed. That is how it should be working.
And where do I get these? Where do I approach Lama Locus and Lama debt counsellors when I put Elias? Where is the proper place for me as a consumer to actually go look for a debt counsellor who did not get my information off a database?
Yeah, well, number one, it could be a word of mouth.
Okay.
Number two, it could be debt rescue going to the companies, creating awareness, and they trust debt rescue because they've been invited by the company to provide a financial wellness program, and then they can apply with them. Or the debt counselor can advertise on the internet, then somebody can Google debt counselor and they can pick up a debt counselor there. But most importantly, check the NCR database on their website. All the registered debt counselors are there. Then you can be able to verify that this person is registered and is still registered and is not deregistered.
Okay.
Because you've got the list of registered debt counselors and the list of deregistered debt counselors.
Okay. Annaline, maybe I think you just touched into it in your previous response. Is there really a difference between debt review and debt counselling?
It's the same thing.
Okay,
Exactly
so why do people think it's a different process altogether?
I think there are obviously some businesses who market it as something different. The Act uses the word debt counselling. The process has become known as debt reviews. Debt review is actually the more common terminology for it, but it's the same thing. It's exactly the same thing. It's when you apply for debt review or debt counselling, you're going to be placed under debt review or debt counselling, which is one and the same thing.
But Elias, this is very interesting. Are they aware ukuthi this is actually the same process, just under different umbrellas?
We have a problem kune debt admin.
Okay.
Debt administration.
Oh, debt administration, yes.
Yes. So most people, even if they are under debt review or debt counselling, they will refer to it as debt admin.
Okay.
In debt admin is when you have got a debt to the sum of 50,000 rand and less, and you can't afford to pay those debts, you go to the debt administrator.
Okay.
And he will go to court and get admin order, of which is going to garnish the employer, for the employer to deduct the installment from your salary to the administrator, and the administrator pays on your behalf. But there, the administrator is not registered.
Okay.
And he only pays on quarterly basis, 4 times a year. Right. So now, there's a confusion there amongst the consumers regarding debt review, debt counselling, debt admin.
Yeah.
They think it's the same thing. So if you want to know whether this person is a debt counsellor or debt counsellor
or debt administrator,
yeah, go to the NCR website, go under debt counsellors and type his name or her name, then you will see the registration number there that this person is registered, and you'll get the address and everything there.
All right. Annaline, who qualifies for debt review, debt counselling? Who can approach debt reviewers, debt counselors?
Anybody who's over-indebted. So the Act makes clear provision that an assessment has to be done and it needs to be proven that you're over-indebted or on the verge of becoming over-indebted.
Who does the assessment, Annaline?
A debt counsellor. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So in other words, if a consumer approaches you, you will help them do a budget. So you will look at their income, their deductions, expenses, and then their debt installments that are due. And if their living expenses are reasonable and their debt repayments are higher than what remains after expenses are deducted, it means that they're over-indebted. Verge of over-indebted means, if there's a fuel price hike or a electricity price increase or inflation that's happened over the past year, that would obviously be that balance. But the vast majority of the cases, it's pretty clear to see if a consumer is over-indebted or not. You can look at their living expenses, you can look at their debt repayments and go, there's more than enough money. It's more a case of a lifestyle adjustment that's required, or your lifestyle adjustments have already been made. You can't afford your debt, therefore you're over-indebted. That is the first and most important requirement.
And but Elias, would you then say a debt review is a safer option for abantu abadrawnayo ey'kweletini, njengoba usho ukuthi there's so many things that they need to look out for, even though yona a process at the end of the day, if done properly, it achieves what it's supposed to?
I would say debt counseling is the last resort.
Okay.
Because the first point of departure will be to contact your credit providers to try and make arrangements with them. But if you are unsuccessful, then you have to go to a debt counselor. Otherwise, you're going to lose your assets. Because the bank will say, please surrender your vehicle or sell your house. But you believe that I can still afford to pay this, but I can't meet the bank's requirements. That's why the debt counselor is equipped to be able to run with that process.
Okay.
Yes.
And then, Annaline, is the creditor then obliged to agree to the debt review processes? Let's say you've got your house and, of course, you are over-indebted on your house, on your bond, on your car installments and so forth. Can they refuse that you go under debt review, especially if you've taken the first initiative?
No. So a credit provider cannot refuse to take part in the negotiation process.
Awesome.
The only time they can is if legal action has already commenced on an account, then that specific account will be affected. So for example, you've got a credit card and they've already issued, served you with a summons or taken out a judgment, then that specific account can be excluded. But from the rest of the perspective, they have to take part in the negotiation process to find a solution of repaying your debt in an affordable manner.
I suppose because they still want to recover some of those monies that they've loaned you. Bugeli, let's take another quick ad break. We are talking about the process here, debt review. We're coming back shortly.